buffer time.
That is not good.
Buffer.
I'm Bradward Warner.
What is buffer time? Is what? Buffer time.
Koala bless you, my buffer timers. We're here again to talk about the something of Vexilon. Cradle. It's a
Cradle of
cradle.
Vexilon.
We're cradling the Vexilon
Yes,
this
we are
week.
cradling. Rock.
Before we get to that, we're gonna do we're gonna talk about the very short Trek holiday party this week, but we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Dustin from Best of Trek, Worst of Trek.
I'm Del, and I have a secret YouTube project that's getting close to finished.
I'm Eve. I'm with the USS Lilith as a lieutenant commander in Starfleet International and the director of the Starfleet Academy College of Music.
Cool. So, this very short Trek thing that started last week, and we get it every Wednesday. This is this is a thing. Anyway, it's great to see Hemmer. We love
Oh my God!
Bruce Horrick.
Yeah, okay. I gotta put a little bit of a plug here because I haven't seen you guys in a while, and I was not only fortunate enough to get to interview Bruce Horrick, but like myself, he's a Calgarian, so he's a pretty big deal here. And I got to meet him in Vulcan in July for the 30th anniversary of the Volcon convention. And I have to say, honestly, if any Trekkie out there gets the chance to meet this man, he is funny, he's hilarious, he is talented. I even have a 20-second video clip of him singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star by request in Vulcan. And yeah, he was just amazing to talk to and amazing to meet. And if you get a chance to meet him, ask him about his goblin obsession, because the man is seriously focused on goblins. I mean, he actually said, and I can say this now because the interview's been published, he said that part of why it was fun to play Zombie Hammer was because he played in Evil Dead the musical, which Bruce Campbell, who's the starring actor, has lived in Calgary for a long time, so he's quite famous here. So, and for those who are Shakespeare fans, what he's known probably best for here in Alberta is his Goblin Macbeth, where goblins find a copy of Shakespeare's Macbeth, but they don't know what live theater is. So they kidnap an audience and force them to watch this enactment of Macbeth. And of course, they're goblins, so they find it funny. And the whole play is acted by him and one other actress. It's literally two people switching all the roles. And because it did so well, Yellow Rabbit Theatre here in Calgary has actually commissioned him to do a follow-up show. So he's doing Goblin Oedipus Rex. And the goblins are going to treat the tragedy as a comedy. So, when you say Bruce Horrick, I'm sorry, I got a totally fangirl there.
As for the actual content of this one, though, how blooper were these reels?
Oh, God.
Was this perfectly in touch with who Spock is, and it just it hits as a funny ha, or was it just eh? For me, it was just eh.
It was like they were trying too hard.
I wish, we would definitively know which Spock this is. I mean, I know that it's being voiced by Ethan. Is that Ethan Peck?
Yeah,
Ethan Peck.
But I don't know. It seemed more like Strange New World Spock than Leonard Nimoy Spock.
Yeah, well,
but
it had the crew from this had Una, and them,
right.
So,
but the thing is, I think Strange New World Spock has a sense of humor, and I think the big blunt ching in this very short check is the idea that Spock has no sense of humor. He doesn't understand humor. But like now that he's experienced emotions and he's been human, he's been known to laugh. He's been known to find things funny. So that's why it kind of didn't sit right with me. I'm like, if he's doing Leonard Nimoy, I kind of get it. But I really feel like Strange New World Spock has a sense of humor.
I actually love Strange New World Spock. Like, and not just because the actor's absolutely hilarious to talk to, but I literally like, I love his interpretation of Spock. Zachary Quinto does a good job in the Kelvin verse, but I will take Ethan Peck over him just because Ethan Peck has a much more three-dimensional Spock. He's less cardboard cutout, like two-dimensional. Who changed that caption?
Oh, some stranger, someone, with no import.
It was me.
Have you gone to the dark side?
Well, Scott's not here, so we need someone else to do the ticker.
I know, because if Scott was here, I'd automatically blame him.
But overall, I felt like this was similar to last week's very short track in that it took one joke and did it over and over and over again.
It did the Family Guy treatment.
And it was just like I was like, I get the point.
Yeah.
I get the point. It's no longer funny if I have to yell at my screen. I get the point.
Yeah, no, it felt like very Family Guy, like with Peter and the chicken, like to the point where they take a joke that starts out okay and just beat the living crap out of it, resurrect it, or like if you want to go with a Stargate reference, like when one of the Goa'uld was killing and reviving and killing and reviving and killing and reviving the other one to torture him as long as he pleased. Like that's what it felt like.
I thought it was really weird to bring T'Pring into this.
Yeah.
That was the weirdest one of all.
I feel like if everyone else had a partner there, or like maybe were attending in pairs, I would and understand it better. But it did stand out to me because I'm like, it's the ship's holiday party. Like, what is she doing there?
I gotta say, I like the actresses. Both actresses who have played T'Pring have done a good job in that I hate them. Like, I'm like, what a frigid, like. She's like frigid. Like, God, she's like
Keiko frigid.
No, yeah. She's like Green Winter frigid. We know Keiko's not totally frigid because she popped out 2 kids.
Yes.
But, like,
she was just the only one to not want to get down on DS9 in the episode when literally everyone wanted to get down. But
can I ask I don't know if I want to ask this question.
Go for it, Jill.
Do female Vulcans go through Ponfar, or is that just a male thing? I don't remember any female, like when they had T'Pol, she didn't go through Ponfar.
Right, but yeah, it was just like a casually like, oh, I did this for science.
But I'm just wondering maybe if that's part of why T'Pring has been more present, is maybe they're setting it up for like a Ponfar type situation, but it would be funny to see a female Vulcan go through Ponfar.
I got a theory to that. Okay, so this goes to Voyager when Vorik went to Ponfar, and he was able to force Ponfar on B'Elanna, but in B'Elanna's case, she went and wanted to like rip the clothes off Tom Paris and ride him like a bloody, mechanical bull.
Does it have to be a bloody mechanical bull?
It's B'Elanna and she's a Klingon.
It's like challenge level expert because it's going to be slippery and it's going to be hard to hold on to.
But it's a Klingon. I think you broke Dustin.
What happens?
No, I'm still here.
But yeah, it was implied that the males kind of through the mind meld process that I thought it was implied that the males kind of push it on the females.
Maybe. Because, like I said, we've never seen I don't think we've ever seen a Vulcan female go through Ponfar. That was just my thought about spring.
That
But
is it right there.
There is a basis in nature. There's some creatures where either the male or the female forces mating upon the other. So it wouldn't surprise me that within Vulcan culture that, the males, they go through Ponfar and they kind of, trigger it in the females through the mind meld process. And that I think has always made me, I think that's why I've always been uncomfortable with the idea of Ponfar, because it seems so non-consensual for the second party. And the second party being female every time. Like B'Elanna didn't want to go through being, horny Klingon babe gone wild,
Right.
She didn't want that. It actually bothered her. So to me, Ponfar has always bothered me because I'm like, on one hand, I get it as it has a basis in nature. It's a completely base animal instinct. And I think maybe that's why they do it with Vulcans too, is because to try and prove that despite their logic and this, that, and how awesome they think they are, that they still can't get over their base instinct. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about the very short track?
I'm very
'Cause
disappointed
I
in
don't have
them.
much.
I really wish that I'm really hoping they've got like a banger in their pocket, because even as a TAS,
It's got to be one.
Yeah, I mean, as a TAS fan, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I want to like it. I want to like it. But if you're just going to do the same joke over and over until it dies, like, that's too much. Like right now, Lower Decks gets one more joke about I miss my wife.
Yeah.
Because things are funny in threes. After that, they're playing the joke to death. So that's my counter for this season, is how many times someone says I miss my wife.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was going to become some kind of new trope, and it's that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's just go over to that.
I'm just happy it wasn't a short trek, but a very short trek.
Yeah, at least if you don't like it, it'll be, it's like a rainstorm in Florida. It'll be gone in 5 minutes.
Because I mean, short treks, like the original short treks did awesome. Like they had the Trouble with Edward, which gave us the setup for the Tribbles, plus that awful Tribble cereal commercial, which was just so campy and 90s.
Oh, that was one of the best things ever. Don't lie. You love it. I loved it.
Okay.
I legitimately loved the Tribble cereal.
I did love that one. And there was also the one with the test with the young ensign where she thought she had to choose between her loyalty to her husband on another ship or her loyalty to Starfleet. And then Captain Pike came in and revealed that was her academy test. Like, to see that one after we only saw it once with Wesley Crusher, that episode was really good too, because it showed just how seriously Starfleet takes some of this stuff.
I liked that a lot, but there was like a rumor going around that she was going to end up in Strange New Worlds, and to this point we still have not seen her in Strange New Worlds. But
yeah, but it's Star Trek, who knows?
Anyway,
I wanted to mention,
we're talking about Lower Decks.
Yeah, let me talk about Lower Decks for a second in the big view, and then I'm happy to talk about the episode. So the only thing I want to say is, if you're watching us but you don't have Paramount Plus, all of season 3 and the first episode of season 4 are on YouTube for free. So if you wanted to catch up or see some Lower Decks, that's where you can find it.
And of course, it's us Lower Decks people who would know that.
Right.
Okay. You guys ready to be careful?
Buffer time!
The crew of the Cerritos is, or at least a couple of few ensigns, even though Boimler will not let them ensign. He will not let his team.
Harry Kim. Certain episode of Voyager, I forget the title, where Harry gets his first command.
Nightingale.
Yes, and he totally, like Boimler, he totally overthinks it to the point where he actually compromises everything until 7 of 9 kicks him in the ass. That was my first thought seeing Boimler in command. But at the same time, it felt realistic because we all know Boimler, as much as he wants to, climb the Starfleet ladder, he's like he's the most neurotic we've seen since Lieutenant Barclay, to be honest.
Yeah, you're not wrong there.
What I liked about how they set up the interaction between Boimler and the ensign, because I know I have been in plenty of situations where I need to learn something hands-on and I spend 90 minutes watching someone else do it. And then I get home and go, it's great that they did it, but I have no idea how to do it.
And for me, I see the perfectionism in him and the high stakes he puts on himself, because I'm one of those people. I'm very much, I'm so afraid somebody else will screw it up. I'll just bloody do it myself and screw the cost to myself. So I kind of see that too. Like, I feel Boimler's got some serious imposter syndrome. And that's something I've always related to in my career. Like, who the hell gives me the authority to do and teach and say what I do? Like, I found Boimler really relatable in this episode because his first command literally reminded me of my first recital that I planned and how I totally got in my own head. And yeah, I actually liked it. I mean, I've always liked Boimler, but this episode, I really loved Boimler.
Do you guys think that Boimler and T'Lyn have chemistry?
He's too stupid to pick it up.
But she said things
not
like,
I've
I've
seen
seen your
relationship.
Well,
Yeah.
She did say, I read your entire logs and back history. And for a Vulcan, that sounds flirty. Like, I spent time learning about you.
It does, but Vulcans
For
also
a Vulcan, that seems like standard operating procedure.
Oh, I think it came across as Vulcan flirting.
like they're but they are very thorough, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they're always extremely thorough and meticulous. But like, if we go back to when Boimler was on his family's, what was it, a raisin farm? And
Yep.
the crop pickers were very obviously enamored with Boimler, and he did not pick up on it. I think if there is something there, he's a complete idiot and doesn't see it at all.
Does anybody else think that T'Lyn might end up getting even as just a joke, like a higher provisional rank than the rest of our lower deckers?
She deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, she already did more in this episode than
Right.
Brad did. She's clearly got the upper hand and deserves something better. I think there would be an awesome joke if she just kept climbing the provisional ladder until she becomes a provisional captain. And I don't know how that works, but that'd be great.
Well, we had a provisional first officer, so there's no reason why
Right.
there couldn't be a provisional captain. I would say she would probably get her own ship at that point.
To be fair,
because as much as Starfleet International mimics the Starfleet universe, we don't have something like that. So honestly, I can't say. I think at some point they would actually be capped though.
yeah, and to be fair, with Chakotay, he held a command rank in
That's
Starfleet
true.
before he left.
Yeah.
So he was just all right, well, you already have it. You get reinstated, but not officially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
He probably could have been a provisional captain had Janeway died.
Yeah.
but it's like Tom Paris, his initial promotion was, battlefield promotion, not because he was granted it by Starfleet, but because Janeway was granting it to him as a battlefield promotion. So,
Well, he was still a full ensign. He was just, he was in the brig at the time. He technically could have, I think, gone back to Starfleet, and that's why they gave him his rank back.
yeah, but they took his rank away too, and then gave it back. And I mean, that guy
Yeah,
got
that's
ranked.
a whole other story.
Yeah.
I was gonna say he got ranked more than poor Harry Kim.
Sure did.
What do I have about? Oh, I did a little research. When T'Lyn says that newly promoted lieutenants, one of the party who's an ensign tends to die. And I did a little research, and I have to argue that point because Tilly was an ensign, and she took 4 cadets on an away mission, and nobody died.
Yeah,
So
but
that's my argument that Talen may be a little confused.
I'm wondering if it's a callback to is it Clear and Present Danger, the movie with oh god, what's his name?
I don't remember
I'm
the name, but I
blanking.
know who you're thinking.
I can't remember either of their names.
Yeah,
The two huge actors.
I know, and
Tommy
I
Lee
know-
Jones
Yes.
and surprise, Snakes on a motherfucking plane.
Oh, Samuel L.
What the hell?
Jackson.
Yes, Samuel L. Jackson. Is that
Yeah.
Clear and Present Danger? And at the end, like, there's this whole thing between him and Kevin Bacon. And it's like, well, if you can guess what the average life of a first lieutenant in Vietnam was, I'll hand the case to you. And
Yeah.
at the end, it's just like 6 minutes or something. And I'm wondering if it's called back to that.
That'd be funny if it was. I love when they bury movie references that aren't Star Trek. I pick up on them every so often.
Yeah, sometimes.
Well, like even this episode, the ring is borrowed. The whole idea of living in a ring around a star is borrowed from another property whose name is escaping
Ringworld,
me.
apparently.
Yes.
I've never seen it or read the book, but watching other people's reviews, they
Yeah, no,
called
I've
that.
read.
I
the
was
book.
thinking Halo at first, but
I
read
have to wonder. I have to wonder, and this is a little bit more abstract, if it's also slight shade at the concept of red shirts always die, because in the original series, it was always Kirk, Spock, and McCoy have an adventure, and the red shirt dies. And if you notice, the red shirt was always a really low rank, like an ensign or a lieutenant. So I have
But
to
this
wonder.
time we have a lieutenant who in a red shirt who's gonna die. Spoilers.
Yeah, but in Star Trek, do you really ever die? That's what Jonathan Frakes said to me. So
and I think that was one of the morals of this episode. I mean, Ransom even says it to him in the end.
Yeah, you
You'll
never-
always remember your first death. Do we just want to get to the death now? Because, I mean, this is how I started my review this week, because I feel like it's the only good part of this episode. The ending in general is great. The
Before
rest of the episode just exists.
can I talk about Vexilon plot before we jump all the way to the end of the episode?
yes,
I
Landru.
guess.
Oh,
Yes, Landru.
So
Please.
Corazonia. Corazon means heart in Spanish, and I like the idea that there's this kind of almost platonic love between the Vexilon and the people, and the idea of the focus of love is a heart. Like that symbology got messed up in my head. I also was like, I know that voice.
Yes.
So the actor is named Oscar Montoya.
Oh, God, I should have known that.
I know, because he is the author of Dix the Musical.
Oh, my God.
That's how I know him.
And I should have known. I should have, now I'm kicking myself for not remembering because I recognized it too.
Yeah, he's a big UCB,
Yes.
Upright Citizens Brigade. He's a big person there. He teaches. I think I may have taken a class with him at some point because his voice sounded really familiar to me. But I've also seen Dix the Musical, so that could give it away too.
I thought this was interesting in that it was the heart of the planet versus in the Spock's brain episode where the computer was the brain of the planet. And instead of Landru in, I forget which episode, but that's a original series episode, but the Iconians. Oh no, the Archons. Yeah, the Archon episode where they have Landru, who was originally benevolent, but then kind of became not so benevolent and initiated the Great Purge every night. To me, this was kind of like a callback to both of those episodes because those were ones where we saw a computer literally controlling the world, and then there was the Voyager one with the holographic world.
I made a whole list. Don't ruin my list because I took
Sorry.
time.
I'm sorry, I'm in your head, am I?
I know.
I'm going to mention the one that I pointed out to you that I
Oh,
had
do
already put
that.
in my review that I have on screen right now. I
Okay.
feel like this episode is closest a callback to Aldea from When the Bow Breaks in TNG.
Yes.
It's a society of all artists in this one too who have just forgotten to think for themselves because they've had this computer that does all the work for them, and it's very similar to this week. But
Yes.
Del, I want to hear your list of all of the computers that have taken care of people.
I
Yes,
did
Del, did us.
some research. I can't promise that someone's not going to jump in the comments and be like, and this one. But I have
Hey, you want
Landru. I have Landru. I have Nomad, who actually
Yes.
also appears in this episode.
Yes.
Dreadnought. The episode of DS9 called Civil Defense, when
Yes.
they trigger the Cardassian security system and have to call on Ducat to shut it off. And then tomorrow is Yesterday, because the computer starts flirting with everybody.
Yes.
And I believe, but
Thanks,
not 100%
dear.
certain, that's when Majel Barrett became the voice of the computer.
I
Because they
think
wanted
she
a more
had
feminine
been
voice that could
before
be.
that.
Yeah?
She was.
I think she had
before
done
that.
some before that because there's these weird gaps where the computer will be somebody else's voice. Sometimes it'll be a male voice.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be a different chick. But yeah, I think it is somewhere in there where she like starts to like take it on as more of a for there to the end of the series.
Yeah, well, and
Honestly,
beyond.
the computer voice was like Spot's gender. I mean, how many times did Spot
Yeah,
go
that's a
male
great.
to female to pregnant to male to female? Like the computer voice to me was always like Spot's gender. It never knew what it was.
But that's my list of other Star Trek episodes with basically not necessarily the same plot, although I think Dustin is right.
Mm-hmm.
But just the idea of Star Trek is called to stop a computer before it ruins everything.
What's the original series episode with the like volcano cave that controls everything? Because that one,
The apple.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, that one, you just made me think of that. Like that one gives me serious Aladdin vibes. But yeah, where the cave controls everything, especially when they started like the volcanoes and shit like that.
But yeah, as I was watching the episode, I'm like, this is such a Star Trek trope.
Yes.
That I have to go find every other one to prove that they've done this maybe once or twice before, or 4 or 5 times before.
Ella Moraine, 1, 2, 3, Ella Moraine.
Okay, so speaking of going and finding callbacks, I was glad to find out that Trek Culture went and did the same search and came up with nothing like I did about that probe. At first,
Right.
I'm like, what is that probe in the anomalies room? I know that I've seen this before, and
Yes.
I went on a 30-minute hunt and couldn't find the answer. It's like, oh, well, some of these come pretty close. And then I was like, oh, well, all I had to do was wait till later in the episode to find out that it is. But even as Sean Ferrick points out in Trek Culture's review, it doesn't look exactly the same as
No,
the
the original
It's
had
just
2
close.
prongs. The original had 2
Where
prongs.
this has 4, right?
And this had 4. And it may have been Trek Culture who also said that it looked very much like one of the pieces from the game. So it could be that, but then the scale would be totally
I don't
off.
think it looks enough like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I went out of my way. I was thinking, like, is it the subspace amplifiers from Enterprise that they drop? Is it this? Is it that? And it's like, no. And it was really frustrating. And all I had to do was watch the goddamn episode.
And for those of you watching or watching later, yeah, we don't argue about the minutia of Star Trek canon in detail at all here. We don't care about any of that.
I also wanted to add I believe that there are 2 references to Enterprise in the Boimler plot line. I believe they're making a joke.
Definitely one.
About how Star Trek likes to reuse sets. And so they decided to take Enterprise's warp core and turn it into a power strip for, but it looks, when it's lit up, it looks very much like the warp core in Enterprise. And the way they have to remove the canisters reminds me of the bomb that Malcolm had to disarm that ended up going through his leg.
Yes.
It reminded me of that. So I
Okay,
was like,
yeah.
I wonder if they're purposefully just going, here's Enterprise.
Okay. Before I lose my thought, that one ensign in the red shirt there, not the humanoid, but
The Kazinti.
Kazinki, yeah.
I'm sorry, but he's got fins on his head and like a bear face and stuff. He reminds me of Man Bear Pig from South Park.
No, they're from TAS.
I know, but it just like the fact that he looks like he's like got like they were like, let's pick something random from aquatic and random from primate and random from humanoid and squash it together. It just reminds me of Man Bear Pig.
I have to ask you guys a question. I admit that Lower Decks is not my most fluent Star Trek language. When did Billups become a church tower wearing a hat? Did that actually happen?
No, it's just one of those like, oh, well, that happened.
Okay.
And
I was like, oh, that's a reference I'm not going to get. Damn it.
It seems like the setup for like a graphic novel or something.
Right.
Okay, I posted this in the group because Mariner, just for fun, Mariner has a habit of nicknaming everybody. What would Mariner's nickname be for you?
I thought it would have to be a longer word than my name.
That's
because
fine.
you can't really, unless she called me like the D, but there's a reference to the D. So I was like, it has to be longer in some way, but still like very informal. So I decided that she would call me Delicious.
Okay, I could see that. What about you, Destin?
Oh, I have no idea. Admiral White as fuck? I got nothing.
Okay, that's honestly that's literally how I'm gonna think of you. I'm sorry.
One thing I really liked this week before we even got into the game of Chula was Mariner making fun of it, like, how do they lemon meringue?
To be fair, in Starfleet International, there's I don't think it's officially launched yet. I'd have to look, so I won't say whether it is or isn't. But there is an up and coming chapter called the USS Alamein in Lower Mainland British Columbia. And they picked the name because they love the episode, but a lot of people hate that episode. And yet I like it because I was like obsessed with Jumanji, like most 90s kids, because that was the Robin Williams version. None of the others had to be Robin Williams version. But like, to me, when I first saw that DS9 episode, my first thought was Jumanji.
See, I'm an avid board gamer and I'm also an avid LARPer. This is why I like this episode. I know it's silly. I know it's kind of out there. But what I like about it is that it's a live action board game. I mean, I've played live action Frogger before where people were running around. They were holding like obstacles and you only could move so many squares per turn. So I've done stuff like that. That's why I feel like this speaks to me really heavily, even though I know a lot of people hate it. But to me, it's like a board game come to life. Like I could play Power Grid for real.
It's like being sucked into a game of D&D almost. Where it becomes
the only problem is it's not clearly defined as a good game for a whole lot of reasons.
That's fair.
When you start thinking about it, even on a level of a game, it doesn't really work. I'm also an avid board gamer.
Like
I have 3 closets full of nothing but board games. One of them is a closet that is just board games we will never play again because we have too many freaking board games. And this is not a good board game. Fuck the Wadi. Fuck Chula.
But I feel like maybe it was closer to a series of escape rooms where they were all puzzles.
Yeah.
And that you had to solve the puzzle to get out. That's sort of where I was that's sort of how I was thinking it when I was watching this episode.
But they were shitty puzzles.
I know, but still.
I've done an escape room, and you're right, Del. I actually concur with that because I've done escape rooms, and that's literally what escape rooms are like. Like, they're very immersive, and if you do some of the more horror themed ones, they can feel too real. But
Yeah,
Like
I
that.
disagree because this is nowhere near what escape rooms are. Escape rooms are like, oh my God, you've got to like really turn the gears, and it's way more than, oh, I get to drink this and I've got to follow her.
Allison.
You know what I mean? It's not a very good game. And
Okay.
on Quark's side, what Quark's doing have anything to do with what they're doing in the game?
In a weird way, it
It's
also
so confusing.
reminds me of Alice in Wonderland, not the movie, but the novels.
Sure.
It reminds me a little bit of that, like where she ends up trapped in all these games, and the original book takes place on a chessboard. It kind of reminds me of that too. And if they were going with a little bit of an Alice in Wonderland theme, that ties it nicely to Discovery, because we know that Michael Burnham and Spock have that thing for Alice in Wonderland because Amanda read it to them because she wanted them both to understand how to navigate chaos in a world where they were only taught logic. So, I mean, maybe I'm stretching, but it was just a thought
No,
that
you're not.
popped in my mind.
And I found this summer I got just randomly out and about found a Michael Burnham action figure, and it comes with a copy of Alice in Wonderland.
That's
Yes!
A
awesome.
little tiny copy of Alice in Wonderland.
Actually, this is a fun fact. Dell might know this, but because Dell's pretty well read and into this sort of thing. No, not passing judgment on you, but it's not well known.
Wink,
Dustin.
wink. Dell's a nerd. I get it.
Yeah. So no,
I
like
don't read for shit.
yeah, this is also not a well-known fact, but Charles Dodgson, aka Lewis Carroll, who was a famous mathematician, which is why he was obsessed with chess. He was obsessed with the mathematics of chess. It is theorized he was also severely autistic, and that's why he had an affinity for Alice Liddell, who's the real-life Alice, and her siblings, because his diaries have been heavily censored because of his affinity for young children versus adults, because he couldn't get along with adults because adults didn't make sense. And it's thought that Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass were actually written as a way for him to help himself understand just how the world doesn't conform to logic and mathematical principle and everything else. So yeah, Dell, I don't know if I'm expressing myself adequately, but I know Dell's following me. So
Yeah. This image right
Yes.
here. My Shimoda.
oh my God, Mariner looks high.
But
But do
yeah,
you get
in
the
all
reference?
seriousness,
Do you
is
get
this
the
not-
reference?
Yes.
No.
So in The Naked Now, there's like an Asian
Right, we
guy.
get ice
and he's
isolinear chips.
like throwing
Yep.
them up in the air.
Oh, right, that's his name. Shit,
Yeah,
I thought
so
it was Shamita,
yeah,
but
my
yep.
Shimona.
I'm also thinking
Okay.
of an episode in TNG. It's the one where Data bangs Tasha, is what most people know it as.
That's
But,
the episode I'm talking about.
Yeah, that where they
Yeah.
have to protect the isolinear chips, and Wesley is like, well, no human can, but Data can. And you see Data go like fucking high speed plugging those buggers in like it's nobody's business.
That's
what
why I
they
kind of
do.
liked in the Lower Decks episode that we kind of start out like Shimoda, but then we end with when Tendi goes all like ballistic, we end with sort of Data's version of solving the problem.
Yeah,
So I felt there was a little echo there.
I like that. Actually.
Okay, that's fair. I didn't really think about that. The Tendi just like throwing him around like Data was like boop 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 boop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the thing is, Lower Decks, I could see that because Lower Decks is very, very good at making sure almost every sentence, everything significant we see or hear ties back to something in Star Trek. Like, I mean, I felt like some of Boimler's trials were reminiscent of Harry Kim's first command, but I also felt like there was that element of TNG where Deanna Troi was trying to get her command pip, and she couldn't sacrifice anybody. And it was only when she realized that you have to be able to order somebody to their death to be able to become a commander. So Boimler had to be able to handle sending people to their death in his first command, if that makes sense. I just forget the name of the episode, but
Thine Own Self.
Yeah.
yes. I'm no good with the episode titles.
It's only because I have it on the picture that I loaded when you said you wanted this.
Well, that's what it reminded me of, because I'm thinking like, okay, Deanna tried so hard to get her command pip, and she tried over and over, and it wasn't until she figured out she had to do the one thing she couldn't stand to do, which is order somebody to their death knowingly. It reminded me of that, where Boimler has to realize he has to, on one hand, save his crew, but also be willing to put them in danger to make the mission happen. Because Boimler is quite compassionate. Like, he really does love everybody around him, and he doesn't want to hurt anyone.
Well, and he makes the comment, like, I was an ensign with all of you like a week ago, and now I'm in charge, but I don't feel like I can order them around because they're my compatriots. But that's a big part of being in a social hierarchy, is the higher you go, the more you have to delegate. And the more that you're just supervising. And I think it's going to be really hard for Boimler to make that transition, because in his soul, he's an ensign. Like, he just wants to put his hands in everything. And although he's probably tired of cleaning out the holodeck filters, like, I don't see him as like a lieutenant commander. Unless he has a big change from now until then, like maybe season 6. Yeah. But I find it interesting to watch his first command, and the first thing he has to learn really is to delegate to everybody, like rather than do everything on their own.
Yeah, like Harry Kim and Nightingale.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of saw parallels to both in this episode, because I'm like, I see, aspects of both. Like, he's having to be willing to sacrifice people if necessary, but at the same time, he has to be willing to let go of a little bit of control and trust the people he's with. And then off of the whole like recent promotion thing, okay, this is a bit of a tangent, but you just literally popped into my head, Del. And thank you for that. You always do that to me. Mariner and Ransom. Ransom saying last episode that, he wanted to be like the commander who saw the potential in her and he believed in her and everything. Like, to me, that was almost a sarcastic callback to the TNG Lower Decks episode where Ensign Sito Jax, like, Picard finally admits, after him and Worf and everyone puts her through trial, that, I brought you here to give you a fair chance because I thought you deserved a fair chance, but I also have to send you into this completely insane and dangerous mission, and you're free to, not take this mission. Like, there was callbacks to that episode to me, and I forget the name of that episode, but there was serious.
I think it was called Lower Decks.
Lower Decks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so to me, like the Ransom Mariner thing, it's almost like a sarcastic take on that. Like, he knows the worst, most punishing thing to her is to be like promoted and have somebody believe in her. So he's going to do it to just like piss her off every day of the week. Like, I felt callback to that, but like mirrored, if that makes sense.
I love the relationship that they're developing. I have to admit.
One. Yeah.
Like, I'm really hoping this becomes like a comedic duo, because I just love their dynamic.
I have
Even
to
at
say,
the end of this episode, when they're like, yeah, we're hazing him. Like, but he's still like committed to her. But at the same time, he can fuck with her.
I find it interesting too how we've got first officers that in real life are married to each other but have completely different command styles. Like,
right.
I mean, Jerry O'Connell is married to Rebecca Romaine, if I'm saying her last name right, because that's
you are.
I didn't know that until like when they put out the Star Trek Day thing, and he mentioned that I had no idea.
That's why the comment about hottest first officer in Starfleet. Like that comment made me laugh because it's like, of course he thinks she's the hottest. Like they put that in there on purpose. But like you see him and he's a total parody of Riker. Like, Mr. Look at how ripped I am. I can bang anything in the galaxy and I'm going to. And look at how awesome. I mean, the guy's got a chin-up bar in his office. Like
I do have a question about Ransom, though. When did Ransom become an art historian or an art critic? It seemed a little out of character for him, but that may be what was funny. But I was just like, why is Freeman trying to fix a computer, screw her ancient technology class? If she took it, I'm sure Billups took it. Billups or Samanthan or just, anybody from engineering. So it seemed a little plot like convenient. So that way Freeman wasn't there to sort of oversee all the other stuff that was happening.
Like Tom Paris and his minor in 20th century life. And every time we saw Tom Paris have to couple with 20th century life, he totally was like not with it. Like that's what that reminded me of was I can't remember it's the 2-part episode where they're in the 90th, where they're in the 20th century with that girl.
Sarah Silverman.
Yeah, it might have been Sarah. It's the one where
she drove the VW bus. That's Sarah Silverman.
Okay. Yeah. Like that episode or 2, I think it was a 2-parter, but
it was.
Yeah. Like, see, that was one of those ones where Tom Paris, had bragged so highly about his, knowledge of our century. And then you see him and he's like totally not prepared. Like,
well, it would be like if someone who goes to the Ren Fair got, really brought back to the Renaissance. Yeah. I think they would be a little surprised.
Trust me, I know a lot of people in the SCA. If you guys know what the SCA is,
Dave is a member of the SCA. My partner.
I knew you would, Del, but I wasn't sure about Dustin because I don't know how big it is where Dustin is.
Nope, but I have.
I'm telling you, Del is a big nerd.
Okay.
I'm assuming it has something to do with Renaissance fairs.
Yes, it's called the Society for Creative Anachronism, and they basically all dress up like it's the medieval time. But the problem is everyone's a lord or a lady or a knight. And
not everyone.
Well, there's no peasants.
Right. And like Rave's stuff is Mongolian. Like she focuses on Mongolian costumes and stuff.
Yeah, there's different cultures. I know that, but
yeah. It's basically but the thing is, like, you can't bring any modern tech with you. You have to eat off of like a wooden plate and you have to drink out of a period like vessel. They're pretty hardcore. They have a big event every year called Penzik.
Yes.
And although some people do like modern camping, most people bring canvas tents and they put rugs down and like make a more anachronistic a place to hang out. And it's sort of a competition between who has the coolest parties and that sort of thing. But yeah, there are people who try really hard to be like from the medieval times, but they always are just a little off.
That's because
there were no utensils, but they had Pepsi. Dude, I got.
I know.
Yeah, there's that. Plus, I've seen somewhere it's like no modern technology, but they've got like our modern day version of glamping with a huge ass tent and like a full bed and everything else. And I'm like, what the hell? But yeah, no, it's a big thing here, and so that's what it kind of reminds me of is those people, because they take the best parts and reject the not so good parts.
Right,
it's really for people who just
12 minutes to cover like a couple of big parts of this episode.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'm just letting you know.
And the moderator.
That's where we're at. Is there anything that we really want to touch on besides the koala? Because the rest of the episode, I think, is just absolute garbage. And I basically give this I won't say it now. I'll wait till we rank it and give it a number.
The koala kind of reminds me a little bit of Star Trek V in some ways. It's a little, but it also reminds me of Hypnotoad in Futurama. Like, especially because, like that shot and where it's like, I am Boimler. It reminds me, it's like everybody loves Hypnotoad is the first thing I thought of. But I remember I think you were the first one to notice the koala, Dustin, in the opening credits. I think you were the first one to notice it. But
in our group, yeah.
Yeah. But the koala is like, yeah, he's a little hypnototish for me.
I have to admit, as someone who works with terminally ill people from time to time, getting to see a little bit of what Star Trek Purgatory, I guess, is like. The idea being that like there's a place that they can go, but they can bounce back if the koala says they're not ready.
Yeah.
But I really like the insight. Like I love the idea that the Black Mountain is outside out the window.
Yeah, the Black Mountain.
But he's not like in the middle of the crags of it, but he gets to see it before he's sent back.
I don't know, I'm on the other side of that. I figured the Black Mountain would be more a part of this, especially because of how Shax put it. Like, oh, that place took a lot out of me. Like Boimler just, he stares out the window and the koala's like, nope, it's not your time. You go home.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe
Did you guys know when you watched this that this was a callback to Twin Peaks? I've never seen Twin Peaks,
No,
so
I didn't. No,
it's a
Oh my
callback to
God.
this room here.
What? I've never seen the show.
Nope.
Oh my God! How
Me
did
either.
I effing miss this?
Yeah, holy crap.
Yeah, apparently it's a thing.
How'd you find that out?
Thanks, Eric. What did I miss? You're awesome.
That is an amazing callback.
That is.
Yeah, apparently it's some kind of purgatory waiting room in that show. So
it is. That's why
it's a
I was
callback
like,
to that.
I was very surprised when I saw it, and I was like, oh wait, it's the exact same thing.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one that didn't, but you've seen the show. I haven't.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I haven't seen it at all.
You should. If you like absurdist horror, it's a good show.
It's one of those things I've always meant to watch. People have always told me, "Oh, you got to watch Twin Peaks." It's like it's one of those things where, like, it wrapped up when Eve and I were like 5, or something, right? Didn't it end in the early 90s?
It did.
Yeah, so I would have been like kindergarten, Del.
I would have been in high school. Depending on when in the 90s, I'm either in high school or college.
I mean, I was wearing a diaper when TNG premiered, so.
Can we not turn this into Del Feels Super Old time?
Don't worry, we love you.
Yeah. You're not the only one. Like, man, I shaved my head, and I haven't done that in a long time because I was afraid it either wouldn't grow back or would grow back gray. And like, now I got this new 4K camera, and at least on my like other shoots, I can see all that gray. It's great.
Oh, trust me.
Wonderful.
That's why I bleached out my roots to touch up my hair, because I saw all the gray, and I'm like, I'm 38. I should not be this gray. I look like a fucking hag. Sorry, my language. But
historically, natural redheads don't go gray.
Yeah, but
I have like one gray hair in my beard. But I've seen other redheads when they get older, and it just gets lighter.
Yeah, that's what happens. It fades out, but due to a genetic trait, I have a white stripe in front, like Rogue from the X-Men.
Maeve has that. It's not very accentuated right now because she's mostly salt and pepper. But like when I met her, she had dark hair with a big white skunk stripe. But yeah.
And for me, the stripe doesn't look good because I'm too pale.
I loved the callback to the Betazoid box.
Yes.
The only thing that made me sad was that they didn't have arms. I know.
Yes. Or Jennifer Holmes.
They could have done it. Like, I don't remember which reviewer said it. It might have been Sean. He was like, they could have done it over the phone. Because he only had
literally
like 4
could have
lines.
phoned it in.
Yeah.
That thing was creepy, though. Like, I will give it that. Like, it was seriously creepy.
I don't know. The line, eat a bag of Borg dicks, motherfuckers. That's the best swear we'll probably ever get in all of Star Trek. I don't think it gets any better.
To be fair, Lower Decks is pretty irreverent, so.
All right. So I have I have 2 real questions, and then we're going to rank this damn thing.
Okay.
Why was there no cold open?
I wrote down no cold open.
Where's the
with
intro?
3 plots going on with A, B, and C plot. You'd at least like maybe see them on the Cerritos as they sort of divide into groups. Maybe find out like why Boimler got what he did. Yeah,
Maybe
no cold open, no warm up. Like it's just bang, we're doing this.
maybe it was an experiment, because I mean, they've proven they're willing to experiment with Star Trek. That's how we got the Strange New Worlds musical episode that I don't like.
I am
Yeah.
so sad that we weren't
never
doing
got to talk
reviews
about
when
that
that
as a
came.
joke.
Maybe someday we could do a special on just Subspace Rhapsody.
Oh, you guys won't get me to shut up about that one, because as a professional musician, just as a professional musician, there is so much wrong with it. Like I like it as a fun romp, and I love how the cast seems to love the episode and doing the episode, but there is so much there that as a professional musician, I'm going, no, this is wrong.
I really think that we need to not fall down that rabbit hole when we have less than 10 minutes
Yeah,
left.
it's like 5 minutes left.
Yeah, so let Dustin ask us
Yeah.
questions that are kind of related to the episode, and then we'll answer those.
All right. Well, we got through the cold open. Why is there no cold open? Why is there a Romulan cloaking device from the TOS era on the Cerritos? That's friggin' weird. More than any of the rest of the callbacks, I think, except for maybe the inner light probe.
They introduced this as Kalus's Batleth.
Yeah,
we threw that into space.
Like, oh no, not this. I think this is just a random Batleth. This isn't.
No, I think
Kalus's.
someone said that it was Kalus's Batleth.
Not this one. We have seen that in Lower Decks, and I can't remember where it was. I think it was last season.
Yep.
We saw it somewhere randomly. This is just a random Batleth. I don't have a picture of the Romulan cloaking device, unfortunately.
Speaking of artifacts, the sculptures, that totally reminded me of the black and white face episode from TOS. Because if you look, they're literally just mirrored.
Mm.
I was thinking that too. Like, that's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they're mirrored. And that's why my first thought in the group chat was like,
okay,
that's a callback to the black and white thing. Like, these are our masterpieces.
Let that be your last battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are like not our masterpieces, and we're ashamed. But I'm like looking at them, and I'm like, they're mirrored. And that totally reminded me of that episode, but his face is white on the right and mine's black on the right. And that's their whole reason. It's like their whole reason for hating the sculpture is that it's the mirror of the other sculpture. Like,
I'm going to let you in on a secret. I went through all of my dog's toys looking for anything that looked like a ferret because I was just going to have Lancelot attack me at some point. But unfortunately, he doesn't have anything that even remotely looks like a ferret.
Yeah,
so
Moose ripped the head off.
No
her.
gag.
So. Moose, you had
best gag in the whole episode. Snuggle tower.
Yes.
Lancelot has a snuggle tower.
Yes,
That's
I laughed my butt off.
Precious.
I know. Again, that guy reminds me of like Lieutenant Barclay in a lot of ways.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Let's rank this darn thing, and I'm giving it a 4.
Whoa.
3 for the Great Koala,
Wow.
1 for Talin, and the rest of the episode can fuck right off.
And you're a fan of
that
Great
is all.
Kuala.
Yeah, exactly. I'm giving 3 of it to the Great Koala, and 1 to Talin because she's awesome too. And the rest of the episode does not make the grade for me.
I was going to give it like a 6.5 because Lower Decks is not my fluent language, but I actually really did find myself invested in the plot, even when it didn't turn out the way that I had hoped. Like it was I won't say it's the first, but it's a Lower Decks episode where I actually like bought in enough for me to follow it and, understand it all the way. That's why I'm going to give it a 6.5. But it wasn't my favorite anything, and it was kind of weak on the plot. And I think it was incredibly too many. What do they call them now? Member berries, whatever.
Member berries, tropes.
Yeah, whatever that word is. Like I feel like I'm a little oversaturated, especially right after the Voyager episode. Like, hey, can we just create some Lower Deck, like lore so that we can develop the show a little bit more? I don't know. So 6.5.
I did like the Voyager episode. I will admit that much. I actually thought the Voyager.
Norman, give me why it's an 8. I'm really curious now. What did you like about it?
Come on, Norman. Thank you. I feel like I'm in odd minority for not liking Subspace Rhapsody. I want it to work, but it clearly didn't. Yes, yes, yes. And I actually wrote an entire analysis subjectively about why, and I got kicked out of 3 Star Trek groups for it.
So, Eve, what's your score?
I'm going to give it a 5 because I could be making weird ADHD leaps of conclusion for some of the things I saw, like, the sculptures being the Let That Be the Last Your Battlefield, or like Boimler's trials being a combination of Harry Kim and Nightingale and Deanna Troi in Know Thyself. Like, I mean, maybe I'm making leaps of logic here or seeing connections that don't exist. But if those connections are true, I like them. But like this episode felt like, I think they could have done better, but at the same time, there was some really good zingers. Like, I didn't know Dr. Tayana was in here when, the thing is like swearing its head off. Like there
What was your number? I'm sorry.
What was your number? What was the rating?
5.
Okay, you can keep going.
But yeah, like, just seeing some of the zingers in this episode were actually really cool. Like,
I did write down a quote that I really liked.
Okay.
Everything that has ever occurred is science stuff.
Yes.
I like that quote a lot.
And the Great Koala is creepy. Like, he's got like a weird sort of like Chucky vibe going, like, I am possessing you.
So, Moopsie or Koala? If you think Koala's creepy, Moopsie or Koala?
Koala, because he's not dangerous. Moopsie will suck your bones, and it reminds me too much of, I think it's the second Starship Trooper movie where they have the brain bug, and you see him like jam his thing into the guy's brain and suck the guy's brain out, and the guy shrivels up like a prune. Like, Moopsie reminded me a little too much of that. But Moopsie is totally a Pokemon.
Well, we talked about it last week, but I was just saying, like, the idea of creatures that are both scary but also adorable.
I'll take the Great Koala because he seems harmless. He's more.
I would never call, and I'm gonna use big words, but I would never call a deity of death like safe or like not harmful.
No, like, but you know what they stand for. But Moopsie, what the hell? Like, how is that the guy's favorite creature and it's a bone sucker? Like,
but yeah, like I was just curious, since you said that, both of them were cute and dangerous, that like which one, if you had to choose one to be in a room alone with you, I would choose Lancelot. So I win.
Yeah, I'll take the Koala. Ferrets, I've known real life ferrets, and they're quite intelligent.
I had a ferret named Dink. Because they go ding, 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 ding.
Ding, 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 ding,
ding, ding.
Oh my God! Now you had to put that in my head.
Spaceballs, the melody.
And
yes.
Tuvok is in Spaceballs.
Yes, we ain't found shit. When they come.
All right.
Yeah, I have no more. I liked the episode, but it wasn't my favorite.
No, I like the first episode of the season the best, because even though Tuvix is a bad episode, they managed to really like hammer that one home. To me, it was on par with the DS9 callback.
Yeah, this is one of the lowest rated episodes we've had. Scott actually did rank it since he wasn't going to be here.
Yeah.
This is what he had to say about it. I give this episode a 5. Boimler's arc, learning how to be a decent commander and delegate, and he saw the koala, was great, but not enough to overcome the weak Freeman plot and another plot line that, I can't believe I'm saying this about Lower Decks, overused old references.
Yes.
Thanks, Scott.
I like Norman.
We love your opinion.
I like Norman's idea that the idea of the hazing means that the senior officers are on to their antics. I love that idea.
The thing is, in real life, like, you think about, well, maybe I can't speak for you guys, but like, even in my line of work, there's a thing like in the performing arts where if you join a new band, you join a new performing crew, whatever, you get hazed a little bit. And it's just part of the ritual of accepting you based on how you react. So to me, the hazing thing was pretty real to life. And I'm not against a little bit of silly pranking as long as nobody gets hurt. But yeah, to me, that the hazing thing actually made sense. Like it totally fit with what you'd expect, especially because this is the Cerritos. I mean, in the opening credits, they're running away from Wolf 359. They're like getting their nacelle clipped on an like ice thing. Like they're the most incompetent ship in the fleet sometimes.
So, I want to also echo Norman's comment about could have been more creative with Chula.
Yes.
I didn't go to the episode and
Yes.
watch all of it, but I looked at some pictures.
I
There
agree.
are doors in the DS9 episode that they don't open. So
Yes.
why didn't they just give them different escape rooms? Like maybe put the Alamarine in so that they get the reference, but then have the other stuff be different, like new and different puzzles. That would be awesome.
I think
I
that
know.
would have worked had they explored Chula and had it not just been a run fast as we
Right.
can, and we're gonna show like 4 frames of Chula. I think it actually works better this way if they're gonna do it this way, but I wish they hadn't done it this way at all. So
Weirdly,
Yeah.
weirdly, Del, you just made me think of a great Star Trek horror theme where they have Chula and we have those unseen rooms, but it's in the theme of the movie Cube. If you guys have seen Cube,
Mm-mm.
I saw it once a long time ago.
yeah. So that's the one where a half a dozen people, each with a specific skill, they all wake up in a rooms, don't know how they got there, but all their skills way out. Like it makes me think of that in some ways. Who's the guy in gym shorts?
It's Dustin.
Oh, okay. I can't tell. Okay, there it says. Okay, yeah. Now,
I can't stop laughing.
That was
I know
my
it's not
cover
very
this week
professional,
for my review.
oh my God, that's hilarious.
You guys wanted to talk about Chula. I put myself in Chula.
Chula is Jumanji. You can fight me on that. Same as Moopsie is a Pokemon.
Jumanji was way cooler though.
I know, but I think that's where they got the idea though.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a distinct.
It's just like
draw.
Moopsie. Like Moopsie, you're not going to convince me is not a friggin' Pokemon. Like
The most deadly Pokemon, but yes, definitely 100% Moopsie.
Well, there's
is
some
a
pretty
Pokemon.
messed up Pokemon, so
I don't think any of them are as deadly as Moopsie. I mean,
Yeah.
Moopsie used Bone Drink.
yeah.
That's the end of that.
Why does Bone Drink
See-
sound like a great name for a heavy metal band?
I am not of the Pokemon era. I started watching the cartoon when it first came on, and I went and saw the first movie, but I never played any of the games. I don't play Pokemon Go. What I saw when I saw Moopsie is there's this weird thing about the name Momo in
Yes.
anime. Like anything cute and cuddly is usually named Momo, and then Momo does something crazy. And so I was like, I wonder if Moopsie is their version of Momo.
In Asian culture, to double syllable is actually quite common for nicknames. Like I've had students with nicknames like Gigi and Pot Pot and stuff like that because the double nickname is considered super cute. It's part of Asian culture. But like when you say Momo, I'm thinking that creepy ass Momo thing that went around the internet during COVID, I think it was, with that weird ass, like,
yeah, I know
doll.
what you're talking about.
Yeah. That creepy ass doll where everyone was like, what the hell is this thing? Like, sorry, my language. But yeah, like you just made me think of that Momo thing that went around. But Moopsie is totally a Pokemon. Like, how can that not be a bloody Pokemon? And considering they're way past the 150 Pokemon that Dustin and I would have grown up with, like, there's like over 1,000 Pokemon now, and some of them have pretty weird abilities.
Yeah, my godson is autistic, and his hyper focus is Pokemon. So when he was young, he would sit us down and be like, okay, Pikachu evolves into, like, he was memorizing it by telling us the story.
Yep.
and today he knows all of them. He knows all of their iterations. He goes to like Pokemon like conventions. Yeah, like because he's an adult now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Pokemon is his hyper focus. Most autistic people have some sort of hyper focus.
Yes.
And he like if you have any question about Pokemon, he will answer you. But if you like expect him to drive a car, he has no idea.
The funny thing is, and I'm not going to say this with 100% certainty because I don't have proof, but I have been told multiple times
Yes.
that the creator of Pokemon is autistic, and his obsession was particularly insects, which is why a lot of the original 150 Pokemon are based on insects. But apparently
Huh.
he was
I had no idea.
he is actually on the spectrum. I just can't say that for sure, but I've been told that by a lot of people who I really do have solid reason to believe. And that's why a lot of the Pokemon are based on bugs, is because he was obsessed with bugs.
I love Norman's comment about
Yes.
Moopsies being like triples to the Klingons.
Yes.
That
I
would
like the
be
idea.
if they can bring Moopsie into freaking strange new worlds. I would probably like do something crazy.
It'd be like
I want a
brain-
kid story with Moopsie and Murph. Since he doesn't have bones, they can
Yeah.
like hang out together. That'd be a freaking awesome kids book. Maybe like
that-
older kids.
You know what? No, you could actually make that a young kid's book. Just leave out that Moopsie sucks bones, or just leave
But
it.
how do you leave that out? Because that's a superpower.
That's all he does.
Yeah, but at the same time, kids, if you word it in a certain way, kids won't think it's horrifying. They'll just think they just accept it because kids these days have grown up with superheroes being the common thing, the normal. So like for them, if you just make it like, okay, this guy's basically made of jelly and this guy likes bones. I mean, kids aren't going to question that too much because
All
they
right.
don't think the way
Yeah, I'm
we
about
do.
to say we're 10 minutes over, 11 minutes over.
No,
we're
I got
we're
stuff
way
to
in the
do.
weeds here.
Yeah.
Yep.
We
All
all
right.
got
Well, this has been a fun talk.
Yeah.
I hope you've enjoyed talking. I've enjoyed talking with Del and Eve here tonight. And we will see you back here probably next Sunday at our regular time. This was a special time because I got a hurricane coming my way here on Sunday. Maybe, possibly. We'll see what happens. Gonna try to stay safe. You all do the same. And live long and prosper.